Just bear with me. This is the week of January 15th. Yeah. So we're going to go over the next 7 days, right? You may not hear me pinpoint every single day because there are days where not a whole lot moves. I mean, we're just 7 days. So it's only the personal planets that make moves. However, this week is a little bit different. There is bigger things moving this week. We do have some planets changing the sign. Like Aquarius season begins this week. Okay. And Aquarius season, I don't know what the hell that was. Sound like wolves or some shit. Just a lot of dogs. Our neighbors have some big dogs. Aquarius season begins this week, and it does it in a grand, intense fashion because it begins entering the sign of Aquarius about the same time Pluto enters the sign of Aquarius. Right. We've been here before. We did this last year, folks. So, we're going to talk about that in a minute. All right. But before we go there, we're going to talk about some of the other things because the chart begins on Monday, the 15th. And we've got just a tiny bit of backstory. I'm sorry, but I didn't mention it in the other video because, the other chart had so much drawn up in it. So I want to mention it here. And that is right off the bat on the 11th. Okay. On the 11th, that right there, that symbol. Let me go find it. Right there, that symbol. That's that's Persephone. Persephone enters Saggy, and she did it on the 11th. And I didn't make a mention in the last video. I mentioned when it was going to get to 29 degrees, and that usually is a big deal. And I talked about what Persephone means. And Persephone was home when she was in Hades, but yet she wasn't, right? The story with Persephone is she's been kidnapped and she's taken down into Hades where she has to spend 6 months out of the year or half of the year there. Let's put it like that. She has to spend half of her time there, right? In the underworld. And then the other half, she gets to go home. So it's basically feminine energy that is going through separation anxiety, right? Where it's been taken out of what's been familiar. And in Scorpio, right, it can be tragic stuff, and it can be almost a bringing up of old wounds of things that happened before. Like, God damn, this seems so familiar. Like, did this happen before? Yes, absolutely, right? And so we think of hostages, right? Thinking about the current events and people from basically differences in faith and belief systems, and a fight for natural resources, a fight for, I don't want to minimize this, but the word turf keeps coming to mind, fighting over their turf in their area. I know there's a whole lot more complexities involved with this, like, hey, but this was assigned to be our land. I get it. I understand. I'm just not about anything happening to people who have nothing to do with this damn battle and who are just regular civilians. Like, it's a problem for both sides. It's not good. It's not good. No matter how you slice it, it's not good. And so this Persephone is experiencing that. Both sides are experiencing that, right? People who have been taken, women and children, civilians who have been taken. So that Persephone on the 10th of January, right, at the critical degree. But now here we are, the 11th, and she's in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius has a lot of keywords, right? But let's go take a look at it on the chart here, and there it is. All right. Let me go green again. There she is right there. Okay. So Persephone is now sitting in Sagittarius, and the question is, like, how does this change? It does change because it leaves the tragic, intense, just deeply vulnerable, intense energy. And that had, I don't want to use the word baggage, but it brings so much emotional wounds with it, stuff from the past and history. And like, oh my gosh, maybe my mom hasn't been through this, maybe I haven't been through this, but there's like this soul and family ancestry shared resources, shared value energy that was attached to this. And Persephone being the female and being taken into the underworld. Now here we are in the 15th, and she's already at 1 degrees and 27 minutes in Saggy. And so for keywords for Saggy, it changes. It is about beliefs. It is about culture. What's interesting is while this Persephone was over here in the underworld, it's not to say she had a good time. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of anything. Um, but many times when we walk in another person's shoes, when we see how the other half lives, it may alter our beliefs in some way, in whatever way that is. It's not to say it's not about swaying somebody. So I'm not suggesting that. I'm staying very broad in general here. Beliefs is Sagittarius. It is spirituality. It is religion. It absolutely is. It's wisdom. It's knowledge. It's higher learning. It's people of the cloth, even people of the cloth stepping forward, maybe having something to say, finding different people or different views, opening your mind to different views and exploring them. But this is also the traveler. It's Sagittarius, like getting on a plane and going, right? Going on a journey. So this energy is it's left this area and it's kind of going here. A keyword for Saggy is freedom, freedom and truth. So I'm just naming keywords here. Okay. I just want to stay bold and general and expansive because for so many folks, depending upon where you're located in the world, these general keywords can apply to your life, to your here and now. Okay. So freedom and the beliefs about my future, Sagittarius, the beliefs about my future. Okay. Next, we're going to move and take a peek. Right next to that, we see Venus. We see Venus, and I mentioned her in the last video as well about how she was conjunct Ceres. And you see this, right? You see Venus at 20, and then you see Ceres right here, right? Let me go big. Maybe it's too big, but you see Ceres is at 21, right? Even if you can't really see that, she is, trust me. Ceres is at 21 in Saggy. So there's a lot of things in Saggy right now. And Venus values. This is what you value. All right. Values the truth and the wisdom and the culture. This is also foreigners, foreign lands, foreign languages, by the way, right? And traveling. Venus is being there. So this is more feminine energy, right? More feminine energy, very prominent. I mean, before I even get into that or further into that, I want to back up for a second and talk. See, we still got two things. We've got feminine energy here, the two Venuses, and we have, this is Pallas Athena, that feminine general in charge. She can strategize and look at maps, and she's still in Scorpio. So there is some feminine energy that is still linked to the deep, intense wounds and emotions. And let's not forget, or I should remind myself, one of the keywords I often forget to mention, we always say change and transformation with Scorpio. And so the word healing, right? Scorpio has that energy to take those wounds and to transform it, to change it, and do something deeply meaningful. It's very intense energy because it's gone through some intense stuff, right? So Venus here in Sag, Venus is what you value and who you value. And in Saggy, freedom is going to be a thing. Traveling is going to be a thing. Getting to the truth is going to be something she's thinking about the feminine energy. Remember, Saggy is also judgments. When I mentioned Saggy over here with Persephone, it is judgments. It's the judicial system. Okay. It's wherever you're located and court rulings and federal justices, Supreme Court justices for us in the States here. And Ceres in Saggy is how we get nurtured. And it's tied to grains. It's tied to the earth. It's a very earthy energy. Some even say that it rules Virgo. I don't know for certain myself, but grains in general. And so Venus values commodities for sure. And there's movement. There's movement because they're in Saggy. But they're thinking about the future and they're thinking about, the values, the future of those values. So there could be something in plan here. And I think it's likely going to get confusing this week, but it won't last for long because this Venus right here is going to move. You see the big Venus in brown right there, right? I got her right here. She's kind of reddish brown in color. She's going to be conjunct the galactic center. All right, so let's go look at our calendar. Let's go look at our calendar. So on the 15th, we got Venus and Ceres, the food. Remember, Venus is all about the food anyway, all about the food. And then she's conjunct Ceres. So there's a great value on food, right? And remember, Sagittarius is very giving. It loves to spread, it loves to expand. It truly does. It's a very, it can be very beneficial in the sense that whatever it has in the expansion process, it can be like, think of it as hands, somebody handing something out, to those possibly who are in need of food, right? As rich as we are on this planet, it's very sad if there's people who don't have food. So hopefully Sagittarius, which takes on a spiritual tone, right? Jupiter rules Saggy, taking on a spiritual tone. So it can be serving. We think of the American Red Cross. We think of, there's lots of other, people who are involved who show up to do good things and good deeds and help people. And so there might be a little bit of that happening. All right. Now the confusion sets in when we get to the 19th. The 19th is when we have Venus getting to like 24 degrees. And what happens at 23, 24 degrees, right? She's squaring Neptune. She squares Neptune. So the values and Neptune can be just, it's those rose-colored glasses. So here on the chart, you'll see the square. I might have covered it up. You're probably like, okay, we can't see any square, but there's a big old square there. Let me get this. There's that red line from this Venus here, right? And so now some would say that it's already squaring Neptune at 20. And you could say that it's 5 degrees away. You could say that. Sure. The thing I do know is that once it clears up, which it will when Venus reaches 26, as soon as she hits 26 degrees, and that would be after the 19th. You see Venus? I got the degrees written down up here. So from the 17th to the 19th, she's in a tight T-square with Neptune. So on the 20th, Venus is now at 26 degrees. She's passed up Neptune. She's walking away from Neptune already because Neptune's at 25 down there. You see Neptune? Yeah, Neptune's sitting at 25 degrees right there. So when Neptune is at 25 degrees, being rose-colored glasses, it can throw in some confusion, right? It can throw in some very, very super high ideals. So we might be hearing about things and thinking, oh my God, that's wonderful. That would be great, but then we might be confused because there might be contradictory information at that time. There could be. And why would I say contradictory information? Well, if you look at Mercury on this chart, Mercury is at 2 degrees at the beginning of this week. You see that? And so Mercury is still trying to get to the 8-degree mark where Mars is at. You see where Mars is right there at 8? That's where Mercury began the retrograde, at 8 degrees. So until this Mercury gets to that 8 degrees, we have to still understand that Mercury hasn't delivered the information back to this point. There's something about this point because that's where the retrograde began, where Mercury got the orders from Capricorn, from Saturn, go back and get the rest of the information. And that's what Mercury did. Mercury traveled back to 22 degrees of Saggy. And then, right where Venus and Ceres are, right? Mercury traveled back there, and then she brings it forward and gets to 8 degrees in Capricorn. Now, when does Mercury pass up that Capricorn energy? When does she get past the 8-degree mark? Because Mercury moves fast. Mercury will be at 10 degrees by the time we get to the 7th. I said the 7th. In 7 days' time. In 7 days' time, so like the 15th, the 16th, I'm sorry, okay, let me slow my brain. Man, let me slow down here. In 7 days' time, then the next Monday, right, That's going to be the 22nd, the 23rd, right? That makes sense, right? 5 and 7 is 12. So that's like the 22nd to 23rd. We'll have Mercury sitting over here. Let me go purple real quick for you. And we're just going to draw a line where Mercury is going to be ahead of Mars, but Mars will have already moved then. So we're clear. Mars will have already moved. You see, Mars is here. Mars will be at 15 then in Cappy. So in the last video, I talked about how Mars acts in Cappy. It does good there. It's powerful. It takes orders well. It does its work. It stays quiet, and it just plods away, right? It just methodically does what needs to be done. It's taking the orders from higher up. It's not crazy random. It's not crazy sporadic. It's not running nilly-willy with its weapons. Mars is under orders here. You follow? Things are quite serious here. There's responsibilities and accountabilities when we get into serious Capricorn energy. And the 18th and the 19th are highlighted here. All right, I've got them written down. We talked about Venus and the square, and her square ends on the 19th. But on this very same day, you have the Sun in Capricorn, Hermes in Capricorn, and you have Pluto in Capricorn, and you have Vulcan in Capricorn. They're all at 29 degrees. So they're all conjunct. Now, some say that when anything is near the sun, it loses its power, right? But in my research that I have done, and in other people's charts, and in my own experience, when there's an exact matching degree, the sun gives its energy to that sign, to that planet, just for that moment. It's a very momentary thing. It's a one-day thing because the sun moves a degree within one day. So when they all gather here on the 19th, when they all gather here, it'll be these three right here that you see right now at 25, 27, and 29. Vulcan will move with the sun. You see? And they will all be together. And I'm using the color purple for a reason, because typically when you have that many planets and they're powerful, when you have that many, it definitely takes on more of a spiritual aspect to it. It takes on more of a, what can we do to make this situation less bad? How can we help? What way can we help? And this is Capricorn, so it's serious, and it has the means. It has the means. It has the tools. It's got the military at its disposal, right? It says we can work things. We got the logistics down pat. We got the equipment. We can get things rolling here. And so with Capricorn energy and Pluto being involved, Pluto says if you have abused the power you've been given, you're going to be held accountable. And that's what Pluto does. So the Sun and Hermes is that higher mind. That higher mind. Hermes to me is like Aquarius energy. It's like it's like a combination of ideals. It's a combination of a spark of the divine that comes through. And again, some say that so is Pluto. So if you've got a spark of the divine, and it's almost like you're taking commands from there, right? Things may change for the better, because Earth energy wants to create stability. It wants to create stability. Now, obviously, we have all that stuff over there at 28 and 29 degrees. And yes, that means that it's a trine, that sedna is trining all of that. You see, that's all those planets are going to take a turn trining sedna. Pluto already did. Sedna's already pulled out of the Pluto trine, but the Sun and Hermes and even Vulcan will together be at 29 degrees. And so that happens all on the 19th. Right. So it's complicated. This is that beautiful stock on the stove that's really complex. But we do know government is involved. We do know there's money involved, there's power. Power players are at the table and they are trying to there's a lot to do with the past here. And it can be money and values because of Sedna and Taurus and the natural resources. So whether it's turf, the earth and money and food, right? And just everything you can think of that makes you feel comforted when we think of Taurus energy. The smells, the tastes, the touch, the sounds, that's all Taurus energy. Okay? So this Pluto on the 19th is sitting at 29 degrees and 59 minutes. Pluto is at 29:59. Yeah. So we know that means Pluto's going to make a move. And when Pluto makes a move, the next, what does it go to after 29:59? 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that's January 20th. Pluto's at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that's a big deal. And you see that I have the sun pointed out there because the sun moves 1 degree a day. So the sun and Pluto together, hand in hand, the sun is an authority figure. Remember Aquarius, right? What is Aquarius? It's unconventional. It's different. We got to do something we haven't done before. I know this might not make sense. I know this is going against the grain. I know this is going against tradition. These sort of times that we're in calls for something different, right? And Aquarius energy can also be nuclear. And I'm only saying that because the word power keeps coming to my mind. So it is independent power, individual power. It is about uniqueness. It is about my authenticity, right? But when we think of energy in general, we always think electric, but it is nuclear as well. Okay. And so Pluto and the sun together, the sun is an authority figure, and Pluto, for sure, is very powerful. And Pluto usually does kind of like to take action because it's powerful, but Pluto kind of changes the way it's going to show its power in Aquarius energy. Ideas and ideals are prominent. So when you're thinking of Aquarius energy, Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is about purpose, deep, intense purpose. And it does it through change. It does it through change. Pluto says, how can we serve? It's altruistic energy. Altruistic energy. When I mentioned the individual power, I want you to think of the word independence, because that's Aquarius. It loves to be independent. It wants freedom. It truly does, even to the degree where it will rebel just to rebel. Even if it doesn't have like a true purpose to break away, it needs that sense of individuality. So even if it's what it's getting involved, if you remember when we were teenagers, right? Some of this, when we got, the late teen age where we started being like, but I'm the adult of my life. So you do things, even if they're dumb as shit, you do things where it's like, you can't tell me what to do. And we'll do it. And it could be the dumbest damn thing in the world, but it feels good. And we feel like we're an adult because we made that decision and nobody could stop us. And that is one of the vices of Aquarius energy, is to be very cautious because it's so thirsty for freedom and excitement. It's so thirsty for that when you have all this kind of power going on, which there is a lot of intense power, Pluto and Aquarius, we think of electric and the batteries and that sort of thing. And I mentioned the power in terms of individual power in multiple ways here, because Aquarius is about ideas. Remember that quote, and she was spot on. And the astrology on it is really fascinating. And again, see if you can line up what astrology signs go for level number 1, number 2, or how about A, B, and C? So A, I'm hearing it, small-minded. Those are the words she used, so I'll repeat her words. Small-minded people talk about other people. Average-minded people talk about events. People who are using their higher mind talk about ideas. And that's Aquarius energy. Ideas. Original ideas. This is the inventor. Original ideas. These are people where they have developed their intellect. You have to have a high level of intellect developed for this. And so Pluto in Aquarius is absolutely going to be the development of the mind, and then the development of the higher mind, and people taking on individual thought and even like critical thinking because of the age that we are entering, or that we've already entered, right? The misinformation, the disinformation, the propaganda, and sorting through the fact and the crap. And this now, the age of Aquarius and Pluto being there, will transform and change that. It will show us, it will teach us. We will just be tested in all sorts of different ways to challenge, to do the research, to study, to look for those reliable sources, multiple reliable sources, before we say, hey, this is what the truth is. Just like a scientist would have to do. Think of science. I know a lot of people get scared when they hear that word, but they test their theories and they test them, right? So Aquarius energy is individual thought and ideas, and doing something that can help humanity. It's altruistic energy. It says, how can I serve the group? This isn't about me. This is about the group. One big caution with the Aquarius energy is pride, being condescending, because there may be people who don't have their mind developed, who haven't used their intellect, who just haven't had the upbringing, the education, the schooling, where they were trained how to sort through information. You follow? So we have to really be cautious of this energy, to always be more of in a mode of sharing to help, not sharing to ridicule or to look down upon, but sharing to help. So Pluto in Aquarius will definitely challenge the status quo, because it's going to square the fixed energies of Taurus and Scorpio. And that's a lot of shared stuff, shared values, shared resources, natural resources even, right? For sure, natural resources. So as Pluto goes through Aquarius, it's saying we have to really do our homework now. We can't just go by what we found online. We may have to go back to the library and go old school, right? Start looking through the Rolodex thing or whatever, I forget what the hell that's called. Go find them books, start stacking the books up written eons ago, and start researching old school style and learning how to form our own original thought and ideas. We may even feel like we're the black sheeps and that we lose people, like we're not talking to certain people anymore and friends, because if we think about Aquarius energy in groups, that is friends. And so who you consider a friend, who you consider as part of your tribe, will likely change. Everybody's at a different place on the same line, but we're all at different spots on that line or on that road, however you look at it. So likely that's going to happen. Okay. Now, without going further into that, I will have that video for you. I'll link it below. It talks a little bit deeper about Pluto and Aquarius squaring Scorpio and Taurus. That's the 20th. And now we go to Juno. I have Juno up here. Matter of fact, Juno is right here. Juno, right there. There's Juno. 21 degrees in Virgo, retrograding. Juno is partnerships. Virgo is, it should make sense. It's practical. It's Virgo. So it's a practical partnership. We're together because it's practical. Like we easily cohabitate, right? We have the same day-to-day routines. What does that mean? Oh, I don't know. Sleep patterns. We like the way things are set up in the house the same. You know, those kind of ideas like laundry, cleaning, yeah, whatever our work schedules are, our tasks, our duties, like that kind of matches, you know? And so there's some of those practical things. We like the same foods, even. Maybe not all of them, but we like the same, or we have same health routines. There's something there with the Virgo energy. We think earth, right? We think pets, even. And there's something there where it just makes sense. It's someone you'll commit to. And that's Juno. Juno is the wife of Jupiter, female energy. Whoops. That was supposed to take that arrow and just be like female energy and point to Juno. So with Juno in Virgo, we think of health and we think of supplies needed for health. So this is nursing, this is home health care aids. Yep. It's the stuff that's not real flashy, you know. I'm always saying washing clothes, ironing, the mundane, sweeping the floor, gardening, you know, things that just, yeah, not real flashy, right? From 22 degrees of Virgo back to 6 degrees of Virgo. So this is an area of your life where you're paying attention to your day-to-day routines. Can be home tasks, projects, work routines. Like, what is it that you do? This can have to do with food prep, because we think of health and digestion. It could have to do with your health routines. So maybe that's your workout routines even, right? Virgo is very much on the holistic side. She's not necessarily someone who's using the weights. It's using essential oils and homeopathies, getting massages, you know, doing yoga. That's a little bit more up Virgo's alley. Okay. And I have down here, the retrograde is on the 13th of this week. Juno begins retrograding on the 13th. So I kind of missed that in there when I was trying to do it chronologically for you. So there was a lot in this, very jam-packed video. So to just do a short recap without naming all the planets, because you can rewind it if you want all the dates and the planets. There's change this week. Definite change. And I would expect like you'll know these changes right at the beginning of the week. Persephone changes signs and goes into Sagittarius. So something about our belief systems and our spirituality, our freedom and the future. A lot about freedoms and the future is involved here, because Pluto going into Aquarius is also about me feeling free to the degree of independence. I need my independence, and I need to develop my mind. I need to be an independent thinker. So I'm not going to follow what the crowd does, right? It doesn't mean I have to say goodbye to people, but it means that I need to really forge my own path. And that all begins here. It begins here. So this is a week where I would expect in the news, because Mercury will be in Capricorn. And once it's the 19th, Mercury is past her retrograde zone. So we're getting more clarity on information from like business and government and likely political figures, because Neptune is all about the political figures. And last but not least, that Pluto at 0 degrees is in opposition to Leo energy. So I'm going to draw that in here. If you got something at 0 degrees in Leo, right? I know my mom does. Her Pluto is at 0 degrees in Leo. But the minutes for her is 0 degrees and 22 minutes. And this Pluto is at 0 degrees and 0 minutes. So it's going to take a little bit of time because Pluto moves so slow. But the Sun and Pluto enter here in Aquarius together. So it'll be interesting all the same, and likely significant too. So it's a week of change. It's a week of things seeming like there's a more clear path of what 2024 holds for you. All right, if you're still here, thank you for your time. I will see you in the next video. Okay, you take care. Bye-bye.